Hi everybody, Eve Everett here, and this time around we're going to talk about what's sold on eBay. Pre-election edition 2016. This edition is going to cover Americana, items made or items you would associate with the good old USA, along with some easy to find, be on the lookout items that I've flipped recently, Ralph Lauren, etc. and so forth. But first, a few minor points of interest. You ever have a day like when you look like this cat's expression? I had this expression today. It's one of those, I really want to say something, but if I do, I will be inflicting a wound upon myself and future self expression. I went to a Goodwill and I picked up a few cool things. While I was waiting to check out at this Goodwill, it wasn't a Weigh and Go, by the way, it was just a regular Goodwill. I look over and I see a pair of these bicyclist shoes that they kind of hook into the actual pedals. And I asked to see them. They have the box. I ask how much they are. I don't have my phone out to check. And she says $60. And I go, $60? And she's like, yeah, some woman off the street told us they're worth $200. And I said, well, they're really only worth what you can actually sell them for. I said, I'll tell you what, I'll give you $30 for them. And she's like, no, I don't think so. And, oh, they're missing a clip. I'm like, so you're selling a pair of shoes for $60 and they're missing a clip that the bicyclist would need to basically use the shoes as a professional cyclist with the bike. Okay. And I was about to say, go on this whole outraged morality thing where, oh, your prices, blah, blah, blah. I mean, you guys have heard it all before in shapes and forms, and so I won't, go through the whole thing all over again. And I never used to be like that, but I'll get to that in a second. But, I shut up and I stood there and I looked just like this cat, which, by the way, this is a Scottish curl with unfolded ears. She's 5 years old. God bless her little heart. So cute. Belongs to a friend of mine. Hopefully I will get a kitten, a Scottish curl, for Christmas. And if you don't believe how cute these things are, check them out on Instagram. Some of them are insanely cute, like really cute. Even if you don't like cats, totally adorable. Anyway, where was I? Okay. So, yeah, I had this expression. I was going to say more, but I didn't. So I left the store and I couldn't resist. I pull out my phone, I look it up, and believe it or not, brand new, the shoes sell for $75. Used, they sell on eBay somewhere between $20 and $25. So it was probably good. I think if she had told me, if I was giving her $30 and she told me, oh yeah, they're missing a part, I definitely would have, well, I don't want to say definitely, but 99% probability I wouldn't have bought them anyway. But to look them up and see that, it kind of made me feel better. I just don't understand the mentality of people that someone comes off the street and is like, oh yeah, those are worth $1 billion, and bam, they sell them for an unreasonable sum of money. But I guess don't get me started, because then I'm going to sound like one of these, I don't know, people who, I don't know. It struck me as I'm thinking of like Golden Finger Picker, where, he's kind of getting razzed by people. And, I kind of don't want to fall into that peanut gallery where people are like, you know what I mean? So, because I totally get that. I don't know, but every once in a while, I just want to say something because it just ticks me off. But like I said I wouldn't beat a dead horse, so I will not. I have been trying to record something about this. This is actually taken from a GIF, like 3 times now, and I keep just recording it again. But I just want to tell you guys, talking about politics isn't my thing when it comes to eBay, obviously, because I don't think that politics and selling things to people mix, especially when you're on one side of the political spectrum and perhaps the person that may buy from you is on the other side. I mean, why talk about that stuff? In any event, the gifts and some of the memes and things that have come up as a result of this current election cycle are awesome. This is from a gift that was done by Giphy, Giphy, and it's like a 10-second long gift done by somebody. It's very reminiscent of like a Godzilla fight in Japan, and it's got like the jets flying across the sky. And the funniest thing about it, look at those tiny little arms on him. But they did such a great job with Trump. They did a great job with Hillary too, but I love that. I am not saying that I'm going to vote for one side or the other. I'm just saying in terms of the talent it takes to put a gift like this together is awesome. And I think they did a great job. And some of the things that do come out of election cycles sometimes, you really learn how people have a sense of humor and how humor can bring everybody together. Regardless of whether they're political, whether they're left, whether they're right. And that is one thing that I do like about election cycles, although not much else. The humor in it sometimes. So anyway, I will be happy when the election cycle is over, actually, because I think it's starting to affect sales, and I think people are just a little uncertain. And I don't think the media helps that situation very much. But, what are you going to do, right? So, without further ado, here's another cat. And this is a cat of mine that I had. She passed away at 19. And just a dear friend of mine for many years. And this is her getting a little wrapped up in my measuring tape. And she passed away in 2012. So, yeah, I guess it's kind of weird that I have a picture of my cat. But the reason I have this picture is it was because I was going through old pictures over the weekend and trying to put things away and so forth. But anyway, to de-stress anyone who is triggered by the election cycle items I just showed you, cute kitty. And by the way, you ever have or hire a relative and they kind of actually do the opposite of helping you with your eBay items? Because yeah, that was me. So I gave my relative, I won't say who it was, my sister, I gave her some really great stuff to work on. I'm talking I gave her some Chanel boots. I gave her, some really, really outstanding things because I could really use help picturing. And she's done pictures here and there. She'll sell things in Facebook groups once in a while. So anyway, I gave her a whole bunch of stuff to do in the hopes that if I gave her a substantial percentage of what the product would sell for, it might motivate her to help me even more. So, okay, so let me just show you how this went, okay? Now, keep in mind, I mean, this is among several items that I gave her. But I gave her some serious items that I thought would sell for a really nice sum of money. Okay, so here's the first picture I look at. I'm like, oh, okay, that's good. It's a little kind of off kilter, and there's shadows, a little distracting, but that's not bad. Okay, wait. What just happened? That's the same item, isn't it? Oh, come on. Really? Oh, okay, yeah, sure. The first picture, I see the color well. The last picture is reasonable. But the others suck. Okay, yeah, that works. Okay. So anyway, long story short, that was like the, well, let's just say it didn't work out. And I guess I just deserved what happened to me because I'm a bit of a control freak. And anytime I make the decision to try to delegate things a little bit more, this is what happens to me. So lesson learned. All right, and the first thing we have to start off this video is directly eBay related that's sold, is this vintage DKNY Donna Karan logo makeup cosmetic bag. And as you can see, it was made in the USA, and I really like picking up vintage Donna Karan and DKNY because it may sit for a little while, but it does move. I think that either designers are picking it up from the 80s and 90s to kind of do a rehash in the next year or two in their lines, perhaps, or people just genuinely like DKNY. I mean, how many of us, basically went to high school or college during the DKNY breakout time for her? She's got some really cool stuff. Her and Calvin Klein, but for some reason I can never sell Calvin Klein, and I love Calvin Klein. I like Jill Sander too, but at least Jill Sander sells. Anyway, this is the vintage Donna Karan DKNY bag, and I sold this for $24, and it took me about 2 months and 3 days to sell. And actually, this went to a person that lived about 15 minutes from me. This is a Hugo Boss men's black leather belt, and it was actually kind of fraying in one area, and I did show that, and it ended up, I got some questions about it from a guy who really liked the belt, and he asked me about it a few times, and finally made a best offer for $28, which I took, and I sold this in about, let's see, oh, my math is just getting really bad. I gotta wonder about that. Are you getting worse at math, like doing math in your head as you get older? Because mine is getting horrible. Anyway, that took me 18 days to move, and I shipped that to New Mexico. This is a Wedgwood strawberry picture frame, and it had the original box, and I sold that for $34.99. Actually, no, I'm sorry. That was the what I posted at, and it doesn't sound like much, does it, for Wedgwood? But the reason I always very quickly check my pricing, unless I'm really familiar with the item, and then I don't. But I would generally check the pricing and try to make it competitive. I don't mind waiting a little bit, so I won't lowball it. I'll look at what I have, the quality of it. I know I'm going to take better pictures than 90% of the people out there. And if you do that, by the way, you'll move things, even though people have lower prices and may outrank you on best match. If your pictures rock, not that mine rock, but they're not, let me put it this way. I can't tell you how many pictures on eBay there are currently where somebody's foot is in a picture, okay? You know what I mean? So, anyway, think about that when you're posting things, because you don't have to take the I gotta lowball everybody approach. I'm not, on the other hand, one of these people who are like, oh, I'll just wait 5 years to sell that. To each their own. But I'm not going out and doing this for the fun of it. I'm doing it to support my family. So I kind of have to balance all that out and make the call. So anyway, I started this at $34.99. I posted it in the middle of April, and I sold it at the beginning of June on best offer for $26. This is a post made in the USA e-sport crossbody bag. And I sold this I posted it at $26.55. You know what? That's my partner. Whenever he puts an oddball figure like that, he starts to play with the pricing. And he and I are going to have a talk. Because he's doing this a little more often than he ought to be. And what happens is, even though he has repeatedly been told by me that I price things in accordance to what I'm seeing on Terapeak and the solds to get these things moving, he somehow takes it upon himself to just dramatically hike up my prices anyway. But it doesn't matter, because I did take a best offer for $15, and this wasn't a big bag. This is one of those smaller. I mean, I would say it was slightly over the size of like a paperback book. So $15, and that took me a little under 2 months to move. This is a Kathy Van Zeeland faux leather and satin paisley handbag. She does a lot of different accessories, and I like to pick Kathy Van Zeeland up along with her, I think it's her husband, B. Markowski. I think his line is a little more top flight than hers. She does a lot of faux, and he does more along the lines of leather. And they both sell their wares on QVC frequently, but you can also find her brand at Macy's and all over the place. So I like Kathy Van Zeeland to sell because it moves fairly fast. I mean, on average, if I find it, which isn't all the time, but I think if you go to the bins, you'll find Kathy Van Zeeland probably 1 out of 3 visits. You can do pretty well with it. This particular bag I put up for $37, and I took a best offer for $30, and I sold that in under a month. And so you can't beat that. Okay, and these are, it's another Kathy Van Zeeland item, and heads up on the style of this particular slide. It's a Western style slide mule boot, for lack of a better description, I guess. And just a heads up on these. This type of design, like it's like a cutoff boot design, these do pretty well. Whether they're vintage, like Nine West did a ton of these in the 90s. And if you find those, or this style, and they're nice, they have to be, you know, decent brand, real leather. If they're like cheesy, you know, don't bother. But if they're decent and vintage or to current, you should move them fairly fast if your price is even remotely reasonable. People buy these all the time, and they're getting harder to find. Anyway, I have a pair of Kathy Van Zeeland here, and they have like this gold glam studded look to them, and they were in good shape. I posted these for $37, and these sold in under a month for that. And 2 questions for all of you. First one is, I like to put how long it took me to sell the item. I do that. It might be annoying to some. Let me know if it's too annoying, and I'll stop doing it as much. I like to do it because I know that people who watch these, sometimes they're newer, and you know, they watch a whole bunch of shows, they get really inspired, they run out there, they find things, they buy a lot of stuff, they expect things to sell like yesterday, and then they sit and they wait. You know, month goes by, 3 months, a year, and if assuming they even make it that long, and then they're freaking out, like, what am I doing wrong? And sometimes it just takes time. And I think that people, I'm not pointing fingers, I'm not accusing, not judging. Believe me, I'm like the huge non-judger. I try to be. Does that sound right, non-judger? Anyway, the reason I put them because I don't want people feeling like they've been misled or made decisions based on what I'm saying, only to, you know, go down in flames. Of course, everybody's mileage is, now I'm going to sound like the end of a car commercial. Of course, mileage is going to vary depending on how well the pictures are taken, how your, you know, I say auction, but your fixed price item, whatever, however it looks. And like I said, I like to put how long it took me because I know that some inexperienced people look at these shows, and I just don't want anyone to be unpleasantly surprised. On the other hand, is not to say that if you pick up the exact same item, it will sell in the same exact amount of time. I could do this disclaimer all day, but I think all of you get the point, and this is more leaning towards the newer to intermediates than everybody else. So anyway, oh, and it's always a pleasure to have everybody on board. I really enjoy doing these for everybody, and anyway. Oh, one more thing. Now, what I like to start doing, and if it's a problem and annoying, tell me. I don't think I'm going to do it every time, but I'm going to let you know what my starting price was. And then I'll let you know if I let it go for less on like a best offer or something like that. I think that might be useful as long as it doesn't like get out of hand. Does that make sense? If you think that's a decent idea, let me know. Oh, and one more PS to all this. I have a free shipping model right now for the United States that is probably going to change a little bit on my heavier items because it seems like everybody in California, I'm on the East Coast, everybody in California seems to buy from me, and the rest of the country is like, oh, does she exist? You know what I mean? Like, you ever have that happen? You just wonder whether the rest of the country can even see your listings. Although, you know, I do have friends across the states and I have them look. I even had somebody who happens to be in Japan right now look, and they're like, yeah, I see it. What do you want? So anyway, I digress. So I like to do those things. If starting to tell, you know, what my original and what the offer I took is a problem, just let me know. All right, moving on. This is a Brighton One World blue denim handbag. It's got leather accents. It's got the little, I'm blanking on what it's called. Why does this always happen to me during videos? Well, it's got that little hangy silver thingy. How about that? Charm. In any event, I sold that for, it kind of hung around a while. I thought it would sell quickly, but it took me about 2 months to sell it. I listed it for 27 bucks and sold it for 22. Shipped it to California. Yeah, to add insult to injury, I shipped it to California, but actually, I think this actually ended up not being a problem. Actual shipping looks like it was about $3.35. So it was a pretty light item, and my profit for that was probably somewhere after fees around 15 bucks. All right, and this is a Juicy Couture corduroy handbag with these yellow cherries. People still buy Juicy, just not nearly as much as they used to, and not nearly for as much money as they used to. However, I did sell this for $35, and it took me about 3 weeks to sell it. This is a Aspen Horizon lower back support brace, and I sold this for $42.99, and it took about a month and a half to move it. Now, you would think that since I would assume that this person bought this nice back support brace to help with back pain, that I would ship it right away. Nope. Did not happen, because somebody who will remain nameless didn't put it in the inventory shipment program, so I did not know to ship it. Now, I know that's an excuse. I know what sells, but unless it makes my shipping list, I kind of turn into like this blind robot. And like 2.5 weeks later, I'm like, something doesn't seem right here. And the person never contacted me. And I realized, I'm like, wait, this sold and we still have it. So I shipped it. I apologized, really embarrassed, never heard a word. They left positive feedback. So I don't know whether they were in a lot of pain waiting for this thing or not. I guess not. But I felt terrible. Anyway, $42.99, and that poor soul in Minnesota did get his item. Okay, and the next portion of this week's What's Sold, I'm going to do things that one would affiliate or flat out patriotic red, white, and blue items in honor of the current election cycle. I bought a whole bunch of vintage wrapping paper from a candy store that had been in the area for 2 generations that went out of business. They were the home of the chocolate-covered pickle. Yeah. And they sold these like all over the world. Chocolate-covered gherkins. Go figure. Anyway, they retired, and I bought a lot of their wrap. They brought out all their really old vintage wrap that they had put away, never to use again, and figured, well, they'll just see if they can sell it. And I bought all of it. And the cool thing about it, as you can see, it still has the metal roller in it, and just really cool in general with the patriotic design and the vibrant Uncle Sam hats. And I sold this for $40 in about a little under 2 months. This is a quote-unquote patriotic beige with stars wool beanie hat that was actually made in Bolivia, but it was just so cool. I got this at the Weigh and Go, posted it, and sold it for 20 bucks. And that took me about, let me see here. That took me about 6.5 months to move. Here we have a pair of red, white, and blue Patriotic Sneakers. Just no-name brand, vintage, and I sold these for $25. Here we have a set of 3 1970s, early 80s Hanes boxers, still in the original packaging. And take a look. I think you'll see that Hanes, if they're older and new, do pretty darn well. I sold these for $51. This is a leather USA American flag jacket. And I had this online for the longest time, and it just sat like a rock. And then I took it up to Brimfield, and I had it just on a mannequin next to my setup. And people loved it. And the reason they probably loved it was because at the same time, Deadliest Catch was gaining in popularity. And one of the guys on the show wore the same jacket, and I sold this at Brimfield for 75 bucks. Here's this really cool rockabilly drop waist. This is actually made in the 50s, which is interesting because it does have a drop waist on it. Probably looking more towards 1957 to the end of that decade. In any event, totally cool print. Would that not look smoking on Nicole State? I think it would look great. Anyway, unfortunately, I should have kept this print just to have it, but I also sold this at Brimfield for $145. Nothing says United States of America like a child's sweater for the beginning of school with apples and pencils on it. And this is by Eagle's Eye. I sold this for $34.99. This is a Jeff White 1987 signed redware pottery dish. Just has butter written across it. Very nice piece. Primitive type work, about 6.5 inches long. Took a while to sell. Oh wow. I put this up around Thanksgiving of 2014, and I sold it literally about 2 months ago. That's a long time. And the funny part is that this is a fairly well-known local artist, and someone from Pennsylvania bought it. So likely they bought it for that reason. But I only sold it for $22.99, so that might be a lesson in maybe just keeping something too long. But I liked it, and it didn't take up too much room, and I'm sure the person that has it is enjoying it. This is some ephemera about the commissioning ceremony of the John Hall, and I sold this for $12.99, shipped it medium mail. Nothing says Americana, in my opinion, like potato sacks, like those burlap sacks that you do your sack race in. You ever do a sack race? I've had the terrible misfortune of doing more than one, and they all sucked. They look like they're a lot of fun. I don't know. Especially if you're drinking, you probably shouldn't, bowl. No bowling when you're drunk. Probably not a good idea. And yeah, doing a sack race, probably not a good idea either. I'm not a lush, I'm just saying. So not that I'm like drunk now or anything, but I forgot to tell you what I sold these for. These are actually relatively new. I got these at an auction with a bunch of other things that were older. And I looked at them, I figured, well, they got a kind of cool design on the front. So let's see what happens. So I put all 3 of them up for 25 bucks, and when you know it, I sold these in 2 days. Go figure. Shipped them to Iowa. I may have shown you these before. Here we have Marlboro trail tags in the original package, and I sold these for $17 on best offer, and it took me, looks like it took me about 5.5 months to sell these guys. This is a mid-century U.S. Navy sterling silver bracelet. I sold this for $54, and it took me about a year and 3 months to sell. And really cool design on this. I really like this piece. Anything pretty much navy from the mid-century backwards is going to do really well for you. I've sold a ton of authentic navy peacoats and pullovers and the button-up pants. You can do really well just doing nothing else for the rest of your life if you could find vintage navy items. Check them out on eBay. Even the hats do fairly well. And again, so anyway, I sold these for $54. Here is a New York Mets vintage baseball souvenir bracelet. And I sold this for, actually took a best offer for $21.50. This came with a lot of other items, and I probably could have sat around and got more for it, but I was a little slow and I wanted to move things. So I sold this for $21.50, and it took me about 4.5 months to sell it. This is a lot of mini tin toy cars along with some other pieces, horses, submarine, you name it. I lotted these all up and I sold them for $24.99, and it took me about 3.5 weeks to sell, shipped them to Florida. This is a lot of 2 tin metal toys that are mid-century. An advertising piece, which is a metal bank. Very cool globe. I liked it. And a small tin car. I sold these for $25. It took me about 3.5 weeks to sell these, and I shipped them to Florida. This is a World War II medal, and it's actually fairly common medal that you would get for basically just serving your military. And I sold this for about $18, and I shipped it to Texas. So finally, the third and final portion of this program. I'm going to do some cool red, white, and blue items that I saw that sold. This is a Trifari Patriotic Alfred Philippe pin. Now remember that name, Alfred Philippe, because I am going to show you in the next couple weeks a phenomenal work that he did for Hermes. In any event, this is a pin. Sold for $790 on a bidding auction, and congratulations to the seller. These are 2 Navajo made beaded patriotic fringe cuffs. Very cool folksy design to it, arts and crafts era, fairly intact, $1,500. Here we have 2 Peter Max patriotic prints, and each of these sold for $1,500. And Peter Max items do fairly well. You don't see them very often. I did sell a pair of scarves a couple years ago for like $75 a piece, but I really haven't seen anything out there by him since. So anyway, keep an eye out for Peter Max. These 2 sold for $1,500 a piece. Here we have a 19th century 33-star American flag. As you can see, it's pretty, quote-unquote, what I would call distressed. And when you have fabric that is this distressed, never, 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 never wash or apply heat to it. Just leave it the way it is. Water is a solvent. So what that means in terms of textiles is anytime you apply a solvent to something, you run the chance of screwing it up. And I think part of the charm of this is the how the fabric looks and the tears and damage to it. So if you find something that's damaged, it's actually better, unless you really know what you're doing, to not repair it. As you can see, this one sold for $3,383. This is a gorgeous, very well done Union Patriotic cover. Basically, I think that it's like an envelope, essentially. This one, so you would, in other words, you would put your postcard or your letter in this and mail it. And as you can see, it made it to its destination intact, and some lucky person bought it for $787.77. And here is another very beautiful one, and if you can see it, very tiny, the back of it, just a plain envelope. This is another cover. Columbia Rules the Ocean. And this one sold for $1,677. I feel like a real jerk showing you some of the things that I've shown you today when you see things like this. But you know what? I'll tell you what. If I show you this and you happen to find one, you better cut me in for 10%. I'm just saying. Anyway, they are fun to look at and very inspiring. And I actually find things like this once in a while. Maybe I'll do a show where I just show you some of my cooler, amazing finds. But I haven't had one in like... well, aside from the product, I mean something along this lines. I haven't really had a find like this in about a year, but we'll go over some of the better ones next time. And finally, this is a auction that was ran in conjunction with Garth's auction. It was on eBay, live event. This flag sold for $9,000. Anyway, everybody, have a fantastic month. Keep your eyes peeled. I know you're going to find something awesome. And good hunting.